What you're looking at right now is Bob Cook, the cooker. We're doing something new. Everybody's got a podcast nowadays. We figure, what the heck? We're here at the Twisted Wrestling Studios in beautiful Florida. So we're going to have Bob Cook's The Cooker's Corner. And we're going to interview old friends, legends, talk about their past, talk about their future, if they have one. The guy sitting next to me, I've known for over 40 years. We don't like to talk about that part because that makes us realize we're old, which we are, but we'll pass over that part. We're talking to Robbie Idol, Raw Dog Robbie Idol. He wrestled for WCW, CWF, that's Championship Wrestling from Florida for you uninitiated, unintelligent wrestling fans, and the WWF before it was the WWE. But the point is, we had this idea. We got this beautiful studio that Joe Saraceno's put together. And by the way, not to plug a plug, but I'm going to plug January 11th right here at the Twisted Studios. We're doing a show, Settled Scores 2. The Cuban Assassin's running his mouth. He's got his manager fantasy, and they're going to drag this kid, this idiot who's really not a kid. He's older than he pretends to be, 82 Rivers. And he's going to bring Frankie Reyes along, who's older than all of us put together. Let's be honest, right, Robbie?
Yes.
And you've had Frankie in your life over the years. He's been nothing but a thorn in your side.
Yes, he has.
And mine, too.
Yes.
And I'm going to have Delicious D in my corner. Joe Saraceno's come to the Bob Cook side, the cooker's side, or the dark side, some people would say. I don't know about you, but I got to have a Mountain Dew. In the middle of the cooker's corner at the beginning of the show, right? I had to plug the show, though.
Okay, well, Bob, I'd like to thank you for having me on, and Joe, thank you for such a good studio. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being the first guest on the Cooker's Corner.
That's right. Hopefully we can do more. It's a work in progress. Everything in life is a work in progress. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Let's progress and see. But Robbie, seriously, I've known you for a long time. Now we've had our ups and downs. Let's be honest, folks. We're not gonna
sugarcoat this.
We're not gonna sugarcoat it. We've had our falling outs over the years, but we always kissed and made up, minus the kissing part.
Right.
But we've always made up.
Because we're like family.
And
so
I'm being legit. We have had legitimate fallings out where years have gone by where we haven't spoke, but we've always come back, and it's always been wrestling that's brought us back, which is why we're here today.
Right, but that's what families do.
That's
and
true.
we're family, so you know.
That's true.
You
I
know,
my wife
I've known you longer than I know my family.
You know me longer than I've known my wife, and not even my wife anymore. We've been separated for 10 years, but we still get along. So it's a weird world we live in. But I wanted to do this because I want to give a side, show people that I actually do have friends, friends that I love, and I'd like to reach out to other friends. We like to do a Suncoast Pro Wrestling reunion. We could get Gator Gilmore here and Henry Reigns and the lovely, beautiful, but always deadly Penelope Paradise.
Yes.
Which is a story about her we might get into a little bit later. How we met her and the chaos that ensued. Frankie Reyes was there. The 1, 2, 3 kid, Sean Waltman, before he was even into business, was there with us.
Yeah, well, he's like 16.
Yeah, it was chaos. The cops were called. I'm not kidding. I'm shooting. It's just the truth.
Right.
Cops are called. And by the way, this beautiful belt is the Twisted Wrestling Alliance belt. We don't have a champion yet, so the bidding is up. What's up for grabs? The belt is up for grabs, but this belt here, we're going back to that. I'll get to you in a minute, Robbie.
Okay.
Don't get cocky. He's always had a little bit of an ego. That's probably why we clashed over the years, but we'll get over that too.
But keep it up, Robin. We're going to find a shell station.
Oh, the shell station. Oh, there's a story we could get into. The shell station. Oh.
All right, talk about your
Well,
belt
I just wanted
down
to plug the show again. Debbie Malenko, the legendary Debbie Malenko, trained by the great Malenko. I was trained by the great Malenko. He was not trained by the great Malenko. Let's clarify that right now. But he was trained by someone who I trained, who was great. Wait, what did I just say? I was trained by the great Malenko, and I trained the guy that he trained. And technically, he was trained by the great Malenko. Let's be honest.
Yes, but to get to the great Malenko, because of you, he always treated me very nicely because I was, I guess, friends with you. So,
well,
R.I.P. there, great Malenko, and I have to give him props because he would give me advice and he would he'd put me on his shows and stuff, and it was because I was friends with you, but he treated me like he had trained me. So right. I have to give him his props and give him credit.
You wrestled for Suncoast Wrestling too.
Yes, right? I wrestled for Suncoast.
He was always there.
Yes, but he'd run his shows and before Suncoast.
Oh, and by the way, this is the questions I have for Robbie. We don't have questions. We're doing it old school. We don't go by scripts. We call it in a ring. Literally, we're in a ring right now.
Yes, right.
Anyways, let me get back to this belt here. Debbie Malenko's coming in to defend it against Nadia White. at the Twisted Wrestling Studio show January 11th. And I got a surprise for Debbie Malenko. I'm going to announce that later, but it's a big surprise. She's not going to be happy, but I'm elated, which don't happen very much when you look like me, being elated. But anyway, let's get back to Robbie, being honest with you. I know I'm goofing around a little bit because I'm a little bit nervous. I don't do these things. I don't like to be on camera. I mean, look at me. Do you want to be on camera looking like me? But then again, when I met him, he had no tattoos. He was a clean-cut kid in great shape. Now he's old, but we're here. But anyway, but again, other people we want to have on the show: Jay Goodley, Brian Blair, Steve Kern, Joe Malenko. The list goes on. It's a long list. I'd write it down, but I tore the paper up. That's what I do. I break things. What's that? Arrive, tear stuff up.
That's it, right?
But anyways, so you met us originally at the gym, right?
Yes, I met you years ago at the Venice Racquetball and Fitness Center. You and Rick used to train. I remember watching you guys on Florida Championship Wrestling.
He's lying. I never really went to the gym.
So, and I was training. So that's because I was training with Bob Lutz, and Bob Lutz was getting ready for Mr. America, and I was getting ready for Mr. Florida, and we were still in the bulk up phase. So I was weighing about 250, and Rick came over and goes, "When you guys going to learn how to wrestle?" Now? 240.
Holy crap. But he looked better at 250.
I know, right?
He's into powerlifting now. That was bodybuilding. There's a difference. Absolute difference.
So Rick asked us when we were going to learn how to wrestle, and I looked at Rick and go, "What do I got to do, Rick?" And he goes, "You teach me how to lift weights, I'll teach you how to wrestle." So gears went right through my mind. It was like a no-brainer. It was like, I can make money at this. So I guess I fooled myself. But
right. Yeah. For the record, I trained Rick Ryder. So essentially, yeah.
Yes. So I wound up leaving the bodybuilding world and went into training with Rick and started professional wrestling. And Rick and I became training partners.
I remember those days.
Yeah, I remember them too.
A lot of days on the road, human beings out there.
Right.
If you're watching, if you're paying attention.
Right.
The road stories that can't be shared here, and we apologize for that. But we have to protect the guilty.
Right.
Some of them are still married. Oh,
right. I was going to say, save some marriages.
Uh-oh. We're not talking about anybody in particular.
Right. But yeah, I remember Rick started training me. It was funny because I couldn't learn how to take a bump. I didn't get it right. And I remember Rick just shaking his head and screaming and swearing at me. I remember Rick having issues trying to lift weights, and both of us were like, "Man, did we screw this up maybe?" And then it all started clicking for both of us, and it started to come together.
Yeah, there was a time when you guys were in really good shape. I mean, both of you were in really good shape.
Yes.
And Rick always used to bother me when we'd do our little feuds. He'd always say something like, "I was a fat, out of shape slob," and I would say, "Yeah, well, I can always get in shape, but you're always going to be bald and short." That was my return.
We did have hair in the beginning.
Yeah, I helped pull some of it out.
Well, maybe.
I got scolded by Steve Kern for doing that. Off the hair, Bob, off the hair. Sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to, You get caught up in a match, things happen.
Right? Well, I think between the two of us, we probably helped bald Rick.
Yeah.
Because I know I pulled on whatever little hair he had, too.
But can you think of all the matches you had throughout? I mean, you wrestled all the legends. You wrestled Jerry Lawler. You wrestled Sting. You wrestled Kevin Sullivan, Cactus Jack. We'll talk about that in a little while.
Yeah.
Talk about Cactus Jack. You wrestled Cactus Jack, and I'll prove to you right now, a little later when we talk about Cactus Jack, how Robbie Idol showed you how to be a man in 1992. Or whenever that was, 91, 92.
Well, I don't remember.
We don't know the dates. We were arguing earlier about when he started. I said 86. He said 85. I said, you should know. You were the guy that started. It was 86, okay? Because I was right. I'm never wrong when it comes to wrestling trivia.
Are you sure? I still say 85.
No, you said it was in Championship Wrestling from Florida, and I didn't start till 86. So if you didn't start before I was in Championship Wrestling from Florida, then it had to be 86. By my calculations.
All right. Okay.
My calculations, which don't really hold much water at my age.
So. But I do remember because we'd always work out in Tampa. Rick would take me to a ring in Tampa and we'd train. So I remember one time Rick telling me on the way, he goes, "Hey, make sure you get the day off. Come up and do when Florida Championship Wrestling does TV taping. We'll go. You can watch. I'll get you into the studio." And it was like right around my birthday, my 25th birthday. And Rick goes, "And then we'll go work out in the ring afterwards." So we had to be like 2 blocks away from the sportatorium. And Rick goes, when we park, make sure you grab your gear. And I go, "What?" And he goes, "I got you a tryout at Florida Championship Wrestling. Happy birthday." he figured it was like time to tell me 2 blocks out instead of telling me on the way up there, so I wouldn't be nervous.
If I remember right, one of the worst matches on Florida wrestling history was you, Rick Ryder, and some dipshit named Dennis Sauer against Blackjack Mulligan.
No, there was like 5 guys in
five
that
guys with big Jack Towers.
Jack Towers was in on that one.
Was he Jerry Gray's guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was Jerry Gray's guy, and there was like somebody else, and it was like
Tony Diamano, maybe.
Remember Tony? I remember Tony. I don't know who was
not too long ago.
Oh.
He was a good guy.
I don't remember.
It was
like 5 of us, though. It was 5 of us against Black.
That was a horrible match. I'd like to find it on YouTube just so we can make fun of it.
I know.
But to show you what kind of a guy Robbie is, I used to work out at a place called the Venice Racquetball and Fitness Center, where Jay Goodley was a racquetball pro. And Robbie saw me one day. I was in there working out, and there was this big, huge muscle guy named Sergio. Nice guy, but he put me through my paces to the point where I couldn't walk the next day. I was literally on the floor crying my eyes out at home. Well, actually, it was someone else's home, but we talked about that dipshit already. But I was literally crying my eyes out, and he saw it happen. This is before he knew me. It's a decent human being. Knowing who Sergio was, he should have come over and said, hey, I know you don't know me, but you're going to be sore in the morning. You should take it down a notch. But no, he let it go.
I looked at my training partner, who was Bob Lutz at the time, and said, what's wrong with that guy? He's going to be hurting. And Bob and I both laughed about it. Not this Bob.
Oh, no, I didn't laugh about it. I'm not even laughing about it now. And I know Sergio. Sergio's a great guy, and he's still alive. We like to say, get well, Sergio. We know you're going through a lot and have been through a lot.
But the way Sergio would train guys, and we saw it, he'd put you through the ringer for the first week and make sure you would come back. And if you came back, then he'd train you like you were supposed to.
Well, we also will say that when Rick and I had a ring set up in Venice, Tony Marino's ring, let us borrow it back in '86, and we had a ring at a warehouse. Robbie never went there. We've already established that. We had Rex King come through there, but Sergio went there, and that son of a gun was stiff as hell.
That's what I heard. Nobody wanted to work with him, and
Jay was the one.
Jay Goodley was the one,
right.
And if you ask Jay Goodley to this day, he's still the one whines that I had to work with Sergio. Well, you brought him in, so you work with him, Jay.
Yeah. But there's a picture, I think, of Jay slamming Sergio in that newspaper story we have. That's a full-page story. Yeah, it was great. It was awesome. It was fantastic. But to go back to Robbie, he's done a lot in his wrestling career. You may not know it, but you look it up. Robbie ought to look it up. It's on. We used to make so many trips to Atlanta and all over Florida, all over the country. We were just talking about a trip. No, you weren't on that trip, though.
Right?
We're not. It's a different trip. We're talking about
the Michigan trip.
We're talking about the Black Pearl trip.
The Michigan.
By the way, Paul, if you listen, we want you on the show.
Yeah, right.
You know who you are. No. Yeah, the Michigan trip. But we had so much fun. A lot of it. We thank God. We do. We thank God. We get on our knees each night. We thank God there weren't cell phones in those days. We'd probably be talking to each other in jail right now.
Right. Thank God for not cell phones, and internet wasn't big back then.
Yeah. We'd be divorced. I mean, we'd be in jail and
right.
Divorced more than 3 times. But another thing, Robbie, we went on a trip one time with me, him, and Penelope Paradise. We were wearing our Terry Funk boots. And Robbie had a girlfriend with him.
My ex-girlfriend.
Strangely enough, they're both named Kim.
Yes.
And his girlfriend didn't like our Terry Funk boots. We had to dump her right away. I don't even think we brought her home with us, did we?
Might have left her at the arena.
We should have. He was probably a rat anyways. Whoa, did I say that? Uh-oh. A little bit out loud. But let's go. We want to talk about how we met Penelope Paradise.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's talk about how we met
Penelope. Mike Graham and Steve Kern and Gordon Sawyer restarted Championship Wrestling from Florida into Florida Championship Wrestling in 1988 after that bug-eyed, mongoloid-looking freak Jim Crockett bought the original Championship Wrestling from Florida and then shut it down. That's right. Rest in peace, Jim. But you did it. You did us all wrong. But after the show, when Mike and Steve started the show, they were taping them at Channel 3 Studios. And this good-looking blonde was sitting in the front row, and somehow I struck up a conversation with her by accident on purpose. And I asked her if she wanted to go to a pizza place after the show with us. Frankie Reyes was there, the 1-2-3 kid, as we said earlier, Sean Waltman.
Rex King,
rest in peace. Was there, Sexy rest in peace, old buddy.
Rick Ryder.
Rick Ryder was there, you, me, Penelope, and I don't know, probably a few other Chaos causers.
Right.
But we're in the pizza place. Probably that guy John Gailey was with us for that one, probably still.
Maybe.
We just met Penelope.
So if he was with her.
I don't know. We're just spitballing here. We don't have a complete memory of anything.
Right? Some of the, hey, I don't remember all my matches. And people
Yeah.
go, how can you not remember your matches?
But
When you wrestle for 15 years, right?
we go to the pizza place, and we're being loud like we tended to do. We got thrown out of a few places over the years, and cops were called. Robbie, at one time at a Clock restaurant, or maybe it was a Denny's, made the waitress cry and quit. That's how long we've been, 15 minutes? We got to fire this guy. We're in the middle of a show, and he's holding up signs. It's all bad enough I fired the makeup lady earlier, or I'd look a lot better than I do.
Might look a little better, too.
If she looked better, I wouldn't have fired her, because I'm superficial that way.
Right, I know, right?
Her credentials didn't match her looks. In other words, she didn't look as good as her makeup should have made her look. Anyways, that's a whole nother story. But we met Penelope. We were at this restaurant, pizza place in Tampa, right near Channel 3 Studios, a couple streets over. I don't know. But we're getting a little loud, and there was two other people in the restaurant, in a booth, a man and a woman. And the guy happened to say, hey, could you guys keep it down? I'm on a date. Well, that was all this man to my right had to say or hear. I'm not kidding you. He stood up, and it was just like, what did you say? And next thing I know, cops were called, pans were flying, pizza was flying.
That might have been a few. The temperament might have came from a few pharmaceutical goods.
Well, we won't get into
that. Did I say that?
Legal. It was legal back then.
Yeah, it was legal back then, wasn't it? I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. If it wasn't, who cares? What are you going to do to us? It's a statute of limitations. But legitimately, chaos was going. Stuff was flying. Luckily, we ate most of the pizza. We got thrown out of the place. Never paid the bill. But the funny thing I can think about is like when all the stuff's chaos, Penelope's
I didn't cause no chaos.
Well, more than once. But the funniest part to me is I think back, and Kim was sitting next to me because obviously I was trying to get her to become my friend. And I leaned over to her and I just went, hey, Robbie and I got a show next Saturday in Claremont with Jerry Gray. You want to go with us? Boom! And our friendship has lasted for almost 40 years, and it's because of that. But we went out, and the cops say let us go, and everything was fine. But I thought it was a funny story. If you didn't like it, turn it off. There's plenty of other channels to watch besides the Cooker's Corner and the Twisted Wrestling Alliance YouTube channel. Why you'd want to, I don't know, right?
Right.
But that was just one time. It was fun.
Oh, we have many stories.
Oh, well, there's another one we were talking about. Also involves Sean Waltman again, and we're just
Penelope.
name dropping because
Penelope,
right? From a show in Claremont, strangely enough, not that one probably. I don't know, that'd be ironic, wouldn't it? If it was
right
that next week. To chaos, and I caused this one by inadvertently. Is that the word you would use? After the show in Claremont, we would always go to the Clock restaurant. And they always treated us well, and they let us unwind. A bunch of us were there. And we were leaving the Clock restaurant with you, me, Sean, and Penelope, who wasn't even Penelope then.
Yeah, she was just Kim.
Right, it's still just Kim to me, but
yeah.
I chatted with her or texted with her the other day. Anyways, where was I going with this story?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure that one out myself.
Oh, we're coming out of the Clock restaurant because we all rode to the show together. Because we'd always pick up Kim in Tampa and go wherever we went. I can't even talk. Look at this. I'm nervous. I'm not nervous. I'm just mumbling. But anyways, we went to the show. After the show, we go to the Clock restaurant. I'm coming out, and some guy was leaving the parking lot with his lights off, and I just yelled, hey, your lights are off. And the guy left, and then he came back. And he came back, and he's like, what did you say? And I said, your lights are on. He got crazy and ended up chasing us through the streets of Claremont. And Robbie's driving. Sean's sitting in the front seat. I'm sitting in the back with Kim. And Kim is yelling at Robbie because every time he's going to make a curve or a turn, you're putting the turning signal on. And she's in the back, stop turning the turning signal on. He knows where we're going to go. We thought we were going to be killed in Claremont, of all places to be killed. Well, I thought that was a funny story.
It had its moments. You had to be there. Now,
those are the moments you wish there was someone with a cell phone. Like, if I had a cell phone camera, I could be taping that
right.
stuff. That'd have been hilarious. And Sean was this way, like you said, probably
like
16 years old, probably thinking, what in the world have I got myself
into? Right?
But then he went on to become a legend in the WWE Hall of Fame. We're not jealous, we're proud. That's it.
Yes.
He's a great guy.
Yes, great guy.
Yes, we're not
still
when he sees you, a little jealous, but we're still proud of the guy.
But when he sees you, he gives you a hug, always comes up,
yes.
Got to give him very humble.
So any of you fans out there that don't think Sean Waltman deserved everything he got, you can go ahead and kiss our asses, which we would turn around and show you if we were 30 years younger, but we're not, so you're not going to get to see that, but you can still kiss him. You can still kiss him, Robbie.
That's it. Well, you want to talk about probably my greatest, one of my most favorite matches.
Jerry Lawler? No. My Jerry Lawler?
Yeah, no. My favorite match.
Oh.
it's funny when people talk to you and say, "Oh, you wrestled," and this might not have been a star in WCW stuff. We were stars on the indies.
Right.
So what's funny is people say, "Oh, this and that," but to last as long as we did what we did in WWF, WCW, people would give their left nut for just to be there.
Right.
So, you could say, "Hey, you guys lost every match, you did this." We did what we were told. The stars appreciate it, always thanked you, very thankful for you. And you never had that ego where you were like, "Oh, I should get a bigger push," whatever.
Right.
But in the indies, you got to do everything you wanted.
Well, unless you were Dennis Sauer.
Don't go there.
See, that Dennis wasn't for you, buddy.
But in the indies, got to do every match that you ever wanted to do. Might have had to take a few, through careers, because I got, but one of the most funnest, probably my all-time favorite match was the six-man steel cage match with me, Jack Corbin, and Jesse.
Playboy Jeff James?
Yes.
I think that's what he called him.
Yes. Against you, Rick Ryder, and Tommy Horn. It was
with John Gailey
as the referee.
Yes.
Complete chaos in the ring for 30 minutes. It was like balls to the wall from the start of it to the end of it.
And it was 40 degrees out.
Yes, it was the coldest night.
And we had a great crowd at the Wellfield. It was an outdoor show. I was still married then. My mother, my grandmother, and my wife were sitting in the front row, and my sister covered in a blanket.
And my future wife was sitting in the crowd.
Actually, my mother-in-law, Levon, who was my mother-in-law, who was married to my father-in-law, they were divorced from the original mother. But anyways, she was there, and if you see at the end of that match, when you guys lost, and then I pretended like we lost,
right.
And I turned on Rick, because I was like, "We lost every time I went to lose." And
right.
You can hear my brother-in-law yelling, "Bob, you won! Bob, you won! Bob, you won!" And I gave that guy, that kid, a friend of yours, was his name John too? Remember that manager?
Oh, that was Rick's friend.
Okay, yeah. I gave him a suplex.
Which he should have never got up because I pile drived him before.
Right.
But the stupid bastard got up,
right.
So you suplexed him.
But when Rick and I went outside the cage, we were fighting beyond the cage, and you could see my mother-in-law chasing behind Rick with her shoe just before the camera cuts off. I just watched that match the other day.
So you finally found the whole...
I have the whole match on my hard drive. I have an old DVD recorder that has a hard drive. I wish I could figure out a way to put that on YouTube.
That had to be the most funnest favorite match of all times. And then in 92, somewhere in 92, I wound up getting hurt and wound up being out till 99.
Oh,
well, no. Actually, well, we'll go to the Cactus Jack thing in a minute. But so I was out, and we'll talk about it. I usually don't tell people this. Well, close people, you knew this. Rick knows it. People close to me knew this. Why I had to stop wrestling in 90 or 92. I was going through a period I had blurred vision, lost a hand, feeling in my hands, slurred speech. Well, I got diagnosed with MS.
Right.
So the first couple of years with MS, I wound up doing what the doctor told me. Yeah. And after the second year, I was like, I can't live my life like this. And it was that wasn't me. It was too cautious. It was this. So 94, somehow I ran into somebody, wound up playing in a men's baseball league. From 94 to 98, I think. And what was funny was I wound up in the 93, 94, I think. I coached all my buddies' kids in AAU baseball. So I would always, there was probably about 6 kids that I was very close with that I coached. And I coached in 13-year-old league and stuff. And I'm not sure when it came out, but all the kids would go, "Coach, do you see ECW?" And I'm like, "What's ECW?" And they're telling me, and I'm like, "When is it on?" And they're like, 2:00 in the morning. I'm like, "No, I never saw this." So I started taping it. And so I'm watching a match, and I saw Mike Awesome against Tanaka.
Oh, I remember that match.
Yes, and I was watching it.
As I'm watching, the one where he threw him out of the ring.
Yeah, threw him out of the ring.
Power bomb?
Yeah, power bombed him, power slammed him out through a table, hit the guardrail. And my wife's walking through and goes, "Aren't you glad you're not there anymore?" And I went, "This is great." And I just thought it was like the most greatest thing there was. And she's shaking her head. And so 99, I get a call, and I don't even remember the promoter. And he said, "Robbie, are you interested in working, doing a show?" And I was like, who am I going to work? And he goes, "You work Chris the Dr. Proctor." I'm like, "I'm in." And so I wound up doing the match with Chris. And so after the match, we're back in the locker room and stuff, and I get approached by these three guys. Well, one was Billy Lindsay, who worked as Billy Elvis Lindsay, whose kid later went on to be Roderick Strong.
Oh.
So that's his dad. Yes,
AEW.
Yeah, he's a big star in AEW. Congratulations, Chris, because you're a good kid. But Billy and a couple guys that were starting up a new indie circuit came up to me and Chris, and they went, "You guys had a great match." And
hey, wait a second, Rod. I don't mean to interrupt you, but we got a guy over here messing with stuff. We're trying to do a show here. We hear noises. Yesterday we had fireworks going off. Professionalism is at its lowest at the moment. Go back, Robbie.
Okay. So Billy came up and said, "You guys had a great match," and started talking to me and said, "Hey, I have a wrestling school in Tampa. I'm looking at starting my own indie. Would you be interested in coming up?" And I'm like, "Yeah, definitely." I go, I'm trying to, I would like to try to go to ECW. And Billy gave me his card, and he said, "These are the days we work out and stuff." So I wound up going to Billy's like 3 times a week. I would go Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday up to Tampa. And
is that when the Raw Dog came into play?
That's when the Raw Dog came into play. So I wound up.
By the way, that doesn't mean he went without wearing condoms. So clarify that.
So I have to thank 2 people for reinventing Robbie Idol when I came back, and that would be Billy Lindsay and TNT Mahoney, because they both worked with me and helped reinvent me to reinvent myself to get into the new style of wrestling and everything. And then so Billy started his new, he started the indies and stuff. And when they got ready to start and did the first show, he went, "You are my champion." He goes, "Out of all the guys," he had about like 15 guys, 16 guys. He goes, "You're the hardest working guy out here." So he wound up putting me over.
That's what you want guys to work hard. You want guys without egos.
Well, yeah. And so he made me their champion. And it was fun. And then he knew I wanted to go to ECW. So there was probably about 6 to 8 guys he would say, "Okay, you guys are the guys that are going to get to do that kind of style of match." So, and it was funny because I had 2 kids that I knew Garrett. I can't think of the other kid's name, and I'm so sorry for forgetting, because they were 2 of the greatest little kids.
What he's saying is your names don't matter.
Yes, no, they do matter. They were 2 of the most awesome kids there were. Besides Chris, Chris would come from, which was Robbie, who would wear out all of us. He no wonder he had cardio back then.
Yeah.
But so I would do. Here's these 18 and 19-year-old kids coming from backyard, and
you know what I'm talking about, folks?
You hear that? That was it. They came from the backyard.
I think that's the makeup artist I fired. She looks better than I thought. You're fired again. Yeah, shut up. Oh.
So, I got to do tables, ladders, and chairs matches with these 18 and 19-year-old kids I worked with. Then wound up after the first year, wound up getting. He wanted to train. He was a bouncer at a club, and they wound up putting him with me, named Keith, and he went on to be Justice, and another great kid, and they put him as my bodyguard, and then we wound up going on to be tag team champions for RWA and stuff. But I just wanted to say, big thanks to all those guys, but especially Billy and Tim for
trying to give you a second lease on your wrestling life.
Yes, they reinvented me, and came back. I came back better, and didn't get to go to ECW, but hey, it was probably a good thing I didn't go to ECW.
Well, we did go to that ECW show in
yes.
St. Pete. You, me, and my son, and Billy Alfonsi got us in.
Yes,
and we got
yes.
to meet you, Jack, who accused my kid of stealing his bike. But Sabu, although I wrestled Sabu before he was even Sabu, I just like to throw that in and put myself over a little bit here.
Right. Okay.
He was calling himself Terry Superfly Snooker back then.
Right. But
it's not a joke, by the way.
Oh, I know it wasn't. And remember who else was on those shows, don't you? Before he was Billy Gunn.
Oh yeah,
Kit Montana.
That's right. That's right.
So,
Trained by Jerry Gray. I think he was trained by Jerry.
Right. Shout out to you guys.
Yeah, I saw him at a show a couple years ago.
Did you? Did he remember you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know is the guy that's helping him in his bodybuilding career now. He's Furlan. Furlan.
Oh,
You met Furlan, didn't you?
I don't know.
Furlan.
I know he hangs around with that big guy that was in the American Gladiators or tried out for that. Hearn is his name.
I don't know him, but I know
If
Furlan.
you saw him, you know he's pretty famous bodybuilder.
Okay.
He's
Well,
like
Furlan,
in his 50s. But
okay, Furlan is an IFBB pro, and I know he helped Billy, and he's worked with some of the guys in
60
AEW.
years old. He looks amazing.
Yes.
And I hate all the people who just go, hey, he's on the steroids. Like,
Right.
And you look like crap, so shut up. Keep your mouth crap shut.
Right,
Buy horses and go live in the mountains and quit bothering people. That's right. Don Rickles, I flubbed it.
Okay.
Sorry, Don. I flubbed your line.
You got to love the people that think, hey, I can take a steroid or a shot, and I can come in and bench 315.
Hey, you know who took steroids? And I'll say it because he's dead and he can't hurt me now. Big Ben Vader took steroids and he was an overbearing, obnoxious, pig-faced bastard to the end. So it didn't do him any good.
Right.
Vasily Alexei, the strongest man in the world, looked like shit, but he could lift a lot of weight. Big deal. Oh, Schwarzenegger looked like $1 million.
You got to love the average person that thinks I can take something and be a pro athlete, or I can lift all this amount of weight. There's genetics.
And you know what I hate? When a guy's in great shape, doesn't matter how old he is, he's instantly on steroid. When a girl's in great shape, oh, honey, you've really put in the work.
Right? Yes. Jeez. But you know, they don't get it. There's genetics.
You know who Roy Ledermeyer is?
I know Roy Ledermeyer. I don't know him, but
I follow him on Instagram, and like the other day, he complimented me, brother Bob, thank you, because I followed him for years. I've told you that before.
Yeah.
Do the work. That's his tagline, and I've been using it for years, even though I don't, do the work like he does.
But yeah, no,
he still looks great.
I followed him when he was when he was in amateur bodybuilding, when he was competing in that.
66 years old now, and he still looks
great.
Yeah,
when he was competing in Mr. America, Mr. Universe, I was following him back then.
When I first commented on one of his things, he came back, he must have looked at my profile, and he said, you've been in the ring with legends, and he put me over. I was like, holy crap. And I'm not a big bodybuilding guy, but
no, I know that. I was going to say.
I respect people like that who are in shape, and just because I'm not follow bodybuilding, but I respect people who are in shape. And I was always jealous of you. He's seeing 2-3 women at a time. Oh, I'm in good shape. Look at Bob. But I was married though, and I was respectful to my wife. Okay, let's make that clear.
Right, and I was single. Rob? I was single.
My story, I'm sticking to it. My show, and I'm saying what I want to say. Tony Clifford would say.
Right.
God damn it! I cussed. Certain words we can't say. I can't.
That's why I'm surprised I haven't dropped that word yet.
Let's talk about that one thing to show you what kind of a man he is. And I'm not talking about the kind of man who watched a poor young man get tortured by Sergio 40 years ago. I'm talking about the real man he is. When he was wrestling Cactus Jack at 19, I don't know when, but he tore his bicep severely. And that move that Jack used to do where he did the clothesline over the top rope, right? You went over
because I remember Jack going, can you take this? And I'm like, what I got to do? And he goes, just don't grab the ropes.
For the record, I took and didn't tear my bicep. So
right, because he didn't grab the ropes.
Who didn't?
You.
I grabbed the ropes. I can watch it right now and show you. I grabbed the ropes. I just didn't tear my bicep. You know why? Because they're right there. But anyways, the point is, he tore his bicep, and what'd you do? You went home.
Went home, and here's the funny part. Well, we can't say the F-bomb, but so I walked in the back. I remember.
You just did. Funny.
Okay. But so when I went over, you see if you watch the video, because it is on YouTube, you'll see me go like this. Yeah. But then Kevin comes and grabs me and throws me into
Kevin Sullivan. Was it a tag match?
Yeah, it was a tag match. It was me and Rick against Kevin and...
Oh, Kevin liked beating up Rick.
Yeah. Well, he liked beating me up, too. So.
For the record, he never beat me up, but he did wrestle me. So it shows you he beat them up. He liked me because he didn't beat me up, even though it made it look like he beat me. Okay, let's go back.
Okay. So he threw me like into the stairs or something. So I forgot the pop. I heard it. I felt it pop. And so when we got into the back, Kevin and Mick were already
the only pop he ever got in a match. Oh, that's an inside joke. Sorry.
It's all right.
I had to go there.
So
when you open the door like that, you got to go where
you got to. I know. I opened it wide. So Kevin looked at me and he goes, "You ripped your effing bicep." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "You ripped your bicep." And I was like, "Oh, that's that pop." And so got home the next day, made calls, got doctor appointments on Monday because this was Thursday at TV. So Friday got home, made the calls. Monday went to 3 different doctors. And the first doctor, I don't even remember. The second doctor couldn't understand him. He spoke broken English. And then the last doctor we're talking, and I said, well, if you fix it, can I rip it again? And he was like, yeah. He goes, you're going to be out 6 months. And I'm thinking, I'm not a star. They're not holding my spot for 6 months. I can't be out for 6 months here. So I go, well, can I rip it now? And he goes, no, it's attached. And I go, okay, thanks. So as soon as I left the doctor's office, I went to the gym and started working out. And I go, it doesn't hurt. So I hurried home, called Jody and said, Jody, I'm good to go. I'll be there Thursday. And he goes, good kid, I'll see you on Thursday.
For the record, he's talking about Jody Hamilton, the legendary assassin who passed away a few years ago. We love Jody.
Yes,
rest in peace.
Jody.
His son, Nick Patrick.
Yes,
we
love Nick
one
too.
of the great referees. But anyways, I just want to clarify who Jody is for those of you who don't know. Because Jody was the guy that handled the TV guys in WCW. And the point of my story is Cactus Jack, who didn't tear his bicep, but tore his bicep in a match with Cactus Jack. We don't want to blame Jack.
No,
who
it
I've
wasn't
always
his
called
fault.
him Jack. Sorry.
Right. No, that's fine. It wasn't his
Last
fault.
time I
It's
saw
my
Jack,
fault.
I said, Jack, he goes, I like the fact that you call me Jack. That's what he told me. But the point is, to show you what kind of a man he is, tore his bicep with Cactus Jack. A week later, he's wrestling Sting on national TV with a torn bicep. That's the kind of man he was. He wasn't a quitter. He didn't get a few stitches on his head and say he's going to come and train and then not show up.
Right? Well, from the old school.
Or he didn't have a job to go to. His car didn't get impounded, and he had to go here and he had to go there because he didn't have the money to train. He showed up to wrestle Sting on national TV with a torn bicep, people. That's a man. It's a man who does what he does because he loves the business. And if you love the business, you do what you do to get the business.
That's it.
And I'm mumbling. I'm getting a little bit hot right now.
Okay.
A little mad now.
Well, it might be that jacket you got.
Hey, this is a collar and opal jacket.
Okay.
Al Snow's gimmick.
And give him another pop,
Al
right?
Snow's
Your pop.
That's right. Al Snow's gimmick. You know Al Snow.
Yes.
He's one of the smartest guys ever. If you people want to know about wrestling logic and psychology, Al Snow's the guy to listen to. You know what the greatest match at WrestleMania 3 was? What do you think it was?
I don't even remember WrestleMania 3.
Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant in the main event.
Okay.
Superdome, or not Superdome. I did what Hulk Hogan did. Superdome, Silverdome in Pontiac,
Okay.
Michigan, 1987. Ricky Steamboat against Randy Savage.
That would be
most people see.
Yes.
You did the same thing that most people do. Al Snow will look you in the face, and you can look it up on YouTube. He'll tell you the greatest match at WrestleMania 3 was Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan because 90 or 2,000, however many people the real
It was like
number
92,
was,
I think, wasn't it?
93,128, even if it's a fictitious number. But they showed up to see that match, which in turn makes it the greatest match because that's what the business is about, making money, drawing money. But that's Al Snow's philosophy. And I've always appreciated his outlook on wrestling. And life in general. He's in great shape too. You see, he's unfortunately like our age,
right?
And he's in great shape. And when I posted a picture of him once, where he was like really, jacked, I said, "Man, Al Snow looks amazing." And his first comment was, "He's on something." Yeah, really? He's on a training program where he gets to the gym every day and he busts his ass. Try it one time,
right?
Joe and I have been doing that. I pointed at Joe. He left. I don't know where he is.
But he ran off with a makeup lady.
That's right. She wasn't that bad looking. She was okay. There's a ball right down the road. He probably took her there to make her look better. Hey! Well, it's getting that time. Anyways, I know this is our first show, and it's going to be flawed. Everything is flawed. I'm flawed. He's flawed. Joe's flawed. Look, he's had a week. Joe, let me tell you something about Joe Saraceno. He's had a week from hell, and I'm being shooting with you people. An absolute week from hell on a personal level. Mentally, physically, financially. A week from freaking hell. But every day he's been in the gym. A couple of days ago, I was sick. I wasn't feeling well, and I didn't go to the gym, and I felt bad because I let Joe down. And I didn't mean to do it. He knows I didn't mean to do it, but I really did. I was sick. I felt, headaches, still a little. And it bothered him.
He did that when I used to train with him, too.
Oh, is that why you were a success and I wasn't? Oh, who are we kidding? Neither one of us were a success. But the point is, Joe's been there through all the thick and the thin, going to the gym 6 days a week. Other than we only miss that one day, but we make it up. We make it up. We don't ponder the past.
Nope.
We look toward the future and try to find the positivity. That's what I've always had a problem with that. Everybody knows me, my self-deprecating.
Right.
What's the word? Self-deprecating. Whatever the word is, when you hate yourself. You put yourself down. It's always been my problem. But I'm trying to think positive because Joe tries to get in my ear and tell me the things I need to hear. Sometimes I listen, sometimes I don't. It's always been my problem. I'm trying to learn. That's why I'm here, trying to learn. I'm trying to teach. If people would show up when they say they're going to show up.
Right. So, okay, not to get off the.
I know you're our guest.
Okay, well, not to get off the wrestling subject, but let me give a quick shout out because if people are wondering what you've been doing now, I've been competing in powerlifting
Nobody cares.
I know nobody cares about it, but you're going to hear about it anyway.
You know what he's been doing now? He's been going to the tattoo parlor. He's got about 2 more spaces.
Right.
We'll have him on next month, and he'll have 3 more spaces next.
So I've been competing in powerlifting, and I just want to give a shout out to a couple of my guys for going through and helping me. Look him up. He's on YouTube and stuff. Chad Walker. He was ranked 5th twice, so big thanks to him for inviting me to come work out at his gym. And it's funny because I asked a couple guys, and one was an IFBB Pro physique guy, and one just worked out and whatever.
What, you mean like me?
Well, no, you worked out with me. So it was a couple months ago, and I said, hey, guys, I'm going to go deadlift at Bayfit. And they go, oh, so I go Sunday morning. Oh, we'll be there. Guess who didn't show up? The 2 guys.
Oh,
one was a physique IFBB Pro. It didn't show up. I'm like, really? You're scared to come train with the old man?
Maybe he had 10 stitches in his head.
Maybe.
He was afraid to pop him when he did the bicep curl.
Nah, they were probably worried when they deadlifted, but So, anyways, but a big thanks to Chad Walker for all his help. I'm an average lifter, but I did okay for my competing. I want to thank him. I want to thank Donnie Dalbert, Michael France, Lee Leckley. You guys have helped me in where I've done well in meets. I've set a couple state records and stuff like that, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without you guys. So went off script a little bit just to give them props, But the funny part of what we were saying they didn't show up to come deadlift with me. When Chad invited me, I met him at a powerlifting meet, and Chad said, well, why don't you just come and train with us? I jumped at that because it was like, there's no way I can lift the weight that Chad and these guys are lifting, but these guys are way better than you, and you get to work out with these guys. Right. So you train with guys like that, you get to be better.
Right.
And I mean, he saw that I worked hard and wound up just said, you're more than welcome to train with us. And those guys have kept me, and I've been there ever since 2018. So I've been fortunate that I got to train with those guys. Like I said, the numbers that Chad has put up, Chad has squatted over 1,100 pounds, benched and deadlifted over 800 pounds. And Donnie is, put up, he's got state records. And, Lee, who doesn't compete anymore at 79, but has set world records. It is in and he's deadlifted in 70s over 400, squatted over 400, benched over 300 in his 70s, and Mike has done real well.
Note to self, don't do that.
So, I mean, it's fortunate. I'm very thankful and very fortunate that I've got to be with these guys and call them training partners and call them family. It's funny how you evolve from different things, from the wrestling game to powerlifting, and you
also did bodybuilding too.
Did bodybuilding?
Did the bodybuilding?
Yes.
I used to hate that when he was doing the bodybuilding.
Yeah, because I was a prick.
But he was on his diet. We used to have every month we'd had pay-per-views with Jay and Robbie and Robert and Nick. Come over and watch pay-per-views, and we used to have the big 20-foot screen. That's right. They put over the 20-foot screen.
Eating pizza, and I had to eat chicken and rice.
But when he was bringing, it used to smell like crap.
Right.
What you were eating. Right. I was so glad when he decided to give up the bodybuilding.
Right.
What you're talking about, all those guys helped you beyond the wrestling career, but all the guys that helped us during the wrestling career. Basically, what he's saying to you people out there that want to train to be a wrestler and you're not taking advantage of it. Well, first of all, it's a big FU, but you should take advantage of it.
Right. You may look and say, oh, wow, they're not stars or whatever, but the knowledge, if you're talking, it's funny because we both signed with a game company, and I keep in contact with Milton. I don't know if you do.
Once in a while.
I talk to Milton I try to talk to him once every couple weeks, as much, but sometimes it's, maybe once every 3 or 4 weeks. But it's funny, he'll say, oh, I've talked to people and they remember you. And it's funny how people have just remembered who we were.
I signed a contract for an action figure, but it hasn't. It'll probably never come out. I did.
You didn't push me on that.
I always take care of myself first.
Of course.
No, but
right.
But he was. What do you say to him? You learned so much from all these powerlifting guys and bodybuilding too back in the day.
Yeah,
and all the guys, man. We've been in the ring with legends. I mean, legit legends, right?
Yes.
I sat down one time and wrote a list or typed a list out, and put it on Facebook. That silly Facebook, where you just all the people you wrestle, and even I'm looking and go, holy crap, I can't believe I wrestled all these guys. Right. A lot of them aren't here anymore, but I was honored to be in the ring. I learned something from each and every one of them. Some of them I might have learned that I didn't want to get in the ring with them again. Right. But that's very rare.
Right. Yeah, majority of the guys, I mean.
Two people I can think of offhand, Dennis Condrey and a guy named Dave Shelton are two guys I never would want to wrestle again. They were just too stiff.
Right. Well, the stiffest guy I was in the ring with was Scott Hall.
Scott, oh, really? Did he knock you out? Or was
he knocked me out, yes.
Clothesline?
Yes. And
Robarts?
Robarts.
Right, I was there.
Yeah. And the week before that, he knocked Rick out twice. So.
Yeah. And the most money I ever made for one match was against Scott Hall when we did that show at the Miami.
Yes, in the Orange Bowl.
Right. We weren't even supposed to be on the show. Me, Robbie, and Rick went to the show. Great American Bash 87. As soon as we get there, Kevin says, Bobby, you got your stuff? He always called me Bobby, for those of you. If you got your stuff, I said, of course. We're trained by the great Malenko, and you know what? You're trained to bring your stuff at every show because he trained us properly.
Well, I remember, and it was funny because it worked. Hump, loved the guy, rest in peace. And we'll give you a story before I tell you what Hump had told me. So the night that Scott Hall knocked me out at Robarts, I wound up getting back in the locker room. I don't even remember how I got back in the locker room. But I remember the guy that was shaking me going, Idol, you okay? Was Hump.
Really?
Yes. And he's like, do you need to go to the hospital? I'm like, no. I'm looking around going, how to get back here? And he's like, I'm okay, Hump.
Like Mike Tyson?
Right. So Hump was very good. But I remember one time talking to Hump in the locker room and going, Hump, how do you, when I first started out, and I go, how do you kind of, catch on in the business and stuff? He goes, you show up at every show and you make sure your gear's in your car, because I will guarantee you somebody's not going to show up.
Yep. And
they're going to say, do you have your stuff? And I remember after he told me that, and I did that, and they started using me on a regular basis. I don't remember if it was Robarts or somewhere else in Tampa or whatever. And I had my stuff, and they were like, Idol, do you have your stuff? And I go, yeah, I'm in the car. And they go get it. You're working. And then you started getting more bookings because you were there. They knew, okay, you want to work. So, and
well, back in those days, it was like you do a show, and you do good, and some guy on the show you'd kind of befriend, and they'd be like, hey, you had a good match. Hey, we're doing a show next month. You want to be on it? And it would just snowball. And once you got your name out there, you got more bookings.
Yes.
I mean, we used to do our WCW stuff. We'd leave on a Sunday and be a center stage for Monday and a spot show for Tuesday with
we would go all week. We'd go Monday through Thursday because you always had to do TV on Thursday in Atlanta.
Yeah, and then we'd be back and do weekend shows.
So you do shows. Friday, Saturday, and sometimes Sunday.
Yeah.
So, we were going 6-7 nights a week for a long time.
We even did a show once in Brooksville on our way to a show in Atlanta.
Yes. Well, talking about Brooksville, how about Gibsonton, the Bull Creek Lounge?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was a classic. Yeah. That was a classic.
Do you remember that? I remember that night. The lights were so low, I went to throw a punch at Rick. I hit the lights. I cut my hand open. And then I remember, no, they were lower than that. It was in a bar.
I remember the place.
Yeah, and then I remember I told Rick, I go headbutt, and he threw me off the ropes, jumps in the air, and his thumbs, you got to remember this. His thumbs moved. We hit heads. It sounded like helmets hitting. We're both laying on the ground, and we're both going like this. You're in the corner laughing because it was a tag team match. I don't remember who Rick's partner was, but it was me and you against Rick and somebody.
Probably Rex King or something.
And we're both on the ground going like this. And you're in the corner laughing because you heard our heads hit together.
I apologize. That's insensitive of me.
and then who was it? You threw Rick at a big table that had all these drinks, and you threw him over the table and knocked the drinks off of it and stuff.
For the record, this setup here is 10 times better than the Bullfrog.
Bullfrog
Creek Lounge.
Yes.
I think that's the last time I saw Dewey Forte was at the Bullfrog. You remember Dewey, right?
I remember Dewey.
Yeah. This is what I don't. Guy, just not the baseball.
Yes, great guy.
Yeah.
But how could you play pro football and you can't remember spots?
Yeah.
He was an offensive lineman.
Yeah, he was a super nice guy. He trained with Hiro Matsuda when Ron Simmons was being trained at Lex, or maybe after Lex. And I was in matches with him. Originally, it was like me and him one-on-one, and then we do handicap matches with me and the Cuban Assassin. Oh, by the way, Cuban Assassin. We'll get into that some other time. but we'd do handicap matches. But we'd always start out lock up. He'd throw me down. Lock up, push me down. Lock up.
Right.
Power or strongman stuff. I'd go to slam him. He'd block it, slam me. I'd go to slam him. He'd block it, slam me. I'd go to punch him. He'd block it, headbutt me. 1, 2, 3. That was the whole match. And we'd do it like every night for a month. And every night he'd go, "What are we gonna do?" Well, same thing as last night.
Right. And you go, how in the hell did he play in the NFL? Because he was an offensive lineman, so you had to know which way plays were going. And
He's no longer with us, though.
No, but you just beyond you how you could not remember stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. Especially something as simple as I just said. And that was legitimately
that was
what
simple.
we did. That was it.
Yeah, and doing it night after night, you would think you definitely.
And the only time when it was 2-on-1 against him, we'd do it. Both of us lock up him and put both of us. It's the same exact spot, but with 2 guys.
Right.
But anyway, but of all your matches, you wrestled all like Jerry the King Law, which I've always been jealous of. But I wrestled Ric Flair and he didn't, so he's got to be jealous of that. Come on, he's Ric Flair. He's a nature boy.
Right, yes.
The greatest wrestler of all time next to Terry Funk. Next to Terry Funk. Oh, that hurt. My chest is sore from yesterday. But who is your favorite opponent of all time? I know your favorite match. We talked about that earlier, but who is your absolute favorite opponent? I'll tell you who mine is when you're done.
My favorite opponent.
And it's not Joe Saraceno.
You kind of laugh. I mean, if
Probably,
you go,
I almost had a thought what it was. Well, maybe I will laugh.
Well, if you go in WCW,
I'm not talking about WCW.
But
those kind of matches are, who do you like
squash?
Okay. I mean, your absolute favorite opponent, like WCW. I mean, God, Ricky Steamboat, Bobby Eaton, those guys are fantastic. So, I'm talking about your favorite opponent. It can be WCW if that's what you want.
No. If you're going to go favorite opponent, I'm gonna have to say two. I have to say Rick because Rick trained me. Rick Ryder, because Rick trained me, and then TNT Mahoney.
TNT Mahoney. Was that from the?
From the RWA.
Okay, yeah.
So those would be my 2 favorite. Rick trained me, and I worked out a lot in the ring with TNT. So we worked a lot of matches together. When I was in RWA. So those would probably be my 2 favorite opponents that because I worked with them, I practiced with them a lot. We just work out a lot.
So see, we're half on the same page. Rick is my favorite opponent.
Okay.
Now, we had great matches, I thought. We had great matches together. We didn't wrestle a whole lot, but we had a lot of
we did.
I mean, we're part of that match you just said was your favorite match.
My second favorite match was tables, ladders, and chairs, which was probably my last match before I wrestled your kid down the road.
That kid of mine.
Your kid.
He's a quitter. Oh, wait.
And then wound up wrestling you and Mark Mandrick.
We quit for a while. You come back.
But
Mark Mandrick. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that was the last time I was in the ring. But me and TNT 2001. Had a
so you're saying we ended this as enemies? Oh,
no,
we made up, folks.
Yeah, we made up. But TNT Mahoney in 2001, we did a tables, ladders, and chairs match. Beat the holy hell out of each other. Couldn't walk for 3 days afterwards. But it was probably my second most favorite match. Here and I was 41 years old doing a tables, ladders, and chairs match.
You're not 41 anymore.
No, unfortunately, a little older.
How old are you really?
I'm 63 right now.
You look good for 63.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Try to make them feel good, folks.
Yeah, right. I know. I know.
Don't write letters.
I know I've been rode hard and put away wet more than once, so I know.
2024. Who writes letters anyway?
Right. They're the keyboard warriors now.
Right. Everybody's a tough guy until it's time to become a tough guy. It's like everybody's a wrestler until it's time to show up and train. Oh! Right. Isn't life funny? Well, we're not laughing, are we, Joe? But it's true though. Rick Ryder is my favorite opponent. I've wrestled again, not to brag, but I've wrestled all the legends, Sting, the Road Warriors, and this time. They were all awesome.
But if you had to go WCW, who would be your favorite?
Oh man, there's so many.
Really?
I've got
like
Brad
2.
Armstrong was amazing.
Yes, and I worked with Brad.
A tag team?
Yeah, we tag team because Tim Horner wound up missing the match. And I got to work against the Bush, and I forgot about the Bushwhackers. So they were fun.
I never.
They were fun. No. They were fun to work against.
I love Luke.
Yeah, both of them were great. Both of them were great. God, and now I would say there's so many because the Bushwhackers, and then Nikita and Ivan Koloff.
Uncle Ivan was awesome.
Uncle Ivan was just the greatest guy.
I loved working with Sting.
Yeah,
the Steiner brothers were fun. They never hurt me.
Ron Simmons was fun.
Rick Steiner gave me a fat lip and knocked me out once, but he didn't do it on purpose, I don't think.
Ron Simmons was fun.
Yeah,
the
Ron
Barbarian was fun.
Ron put me over at the California Alley Club last year. Thank you, Ron.
And the Barbarian was fun. And even
awesome.
the Warlord, he was easy.
I remember wrestling the Barbarian at Robarts once. He threw me outside the ring just as he threw me out. He goes, "Watch the boot." And I go out and I'm thinking, oh, geez, I've seen this before. I'm going to get my head knocked off. That big boot coming at me. Boom, I took the bump and all I felt was the bump. That's how good he was.
Yeah.
I saw him back in April 20th, when George South and I teamed up against Ricky Morton, Tommy Rich in North Carolina. And
funny, I'll tell you.
The Barbarian was there. He was awesome.
Really? I'll tell you a funny story about Tommy Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll remember that night because you and Bugsy, you worked Bugsy main event, and you and Bugsy wouldn't get in the ring till they cleaned the ring.
Was that Tommy Rich? That was Rick.
No, I know. I worked Rick that night, but it was because of Tommy Rich. So
Tommy Rich or Tommy Wright?
No, Tommy Rich.
He was on that show?
No, he wasn't on the show.
Oh.
I'm telling you.
Oh.
See, I guess
I get it.
Like my wife says, I don't explain things well.
I get it.
So
you're saying because of Tommy Rich in the blood.
Yeah, the blood. So I remember going up to Tommy in the locker room in WCW and go, "Tommy, saw you on the cover of Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
I know,
you're covered.
Which one? Your Buzz Sawyer probably biting him.
Cover. You're covered head to toe. I go, how'd you get that much color? He starts laughing, and stuff. He goes, brother. He goes, 10 aspirin a day for a week. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. And I go, okay, thanks, Tommy. And we talked about a few other things and stuff. So that show in Lemon Bay, I guess it was like a couple months out.
Lemon Bay High School, right?
Yeah, Lemon Bay High School, right down the road.
First graduating class, me.
Yeah. And so I kept telling Rick, we were like 2 months out. I kept going, Rick, this is going to be a bloodbath. And Rick's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, no, Rick, it's going to be a bloodbath. Now, what Rick didn't know, I was doing 20 to 25 aspirin a day for a month.
Oh, my God.
And I've told people that story, a couple nurses and stuff, and they went, you're lucky you're not dead. Really? I'm like, really? And they go, oh, yeah, that would tear you up. I'm like, you're kidding me, right? And they went, no. I go, you got to be kidding me. I did that about probably like 4 times in my career.
Jeez, that's crazy. But I remember that blood, and I know.
Yeah, because you and Bugsy wouldn't get in the ring.
Right, I talked to Bugsy not long ago, by the way. He's a great guy, too. We'd like to have him on the show sometime, Bugsy. The Cooker's Corner. Well, maybe I should wind it down. I know it's been almost an hour. 57 minutes, according to our director.
So we got 3 more minutes. What do you want to talk about, Bob?
Well, let's see. Let's talk about January 11th, Twisted Wrestling Studios. Let's talk about Bob Cook, the Cooker, coming out of retirement, so to speak, coming out of retirement to try to teach some of these young whippersnappers. I don't have a lot left in the tank, but I still know how to throw a punch. Just ask my wife. Wait a minute, that was a joke. That was a joke. I never hit my wife.
No,
but
she might have hit you.
Oh, more ways than one.
She might have Roche and Boji a few more times. And for you guys that don't know that, watch South Park one time and you'll find out what it is.
No, but seriously, January 11th, Twisted Wrestling Studios. If you want to sponsor a match or sponsor the show or a show for the future, contact Joseph Saraceno. The links will be in the descriptions, I'm sure. You know, those people don't know how to do that social media stuff. By the way, something I didn't mention, I'm the Cauliflower Alley Club social media coordinator, they like to say. I'm in good company. We got a lot of people on the board of directors. Brian Blair is the president. Medusa's involved. Lots of other greats and legends. But the point is, if you're not a member of the Cauliflower Alley Club, you should be, because it gives back to the wrestling business more than you ever could, especially as a wrestling fan. But as a wrestling fan, you can join the club too. It's a great organization, and I want to thank my first guest, Robbie Idle. And I know we just rambled a little bit. When we get together, we could talk for another 5 hours and have many times on the road. We could tell the story sometime on the next episode sometime.
Thank you, Bob.
Tickets, remember that? Nasty Ned,
and Rick. Yes. Through the same town in Georgia twice,
Ned was driving. You took Ned's ticket because he's a truck driver, didn't want another point on his license. And on the way back, Rick was driving. No, Rick took the ticket.
We took tickets for Rick.
That's right. You took the ticket for Ned. And on the way back, Rick was driving, and he didn't want to take. Wait a minute. What am I talking about? Ned was driving, and then Rick took the ticket for. Oh, forget it. We're off the page here. We got to figure this story out. We'll get back to you.
All right.
But this is the first unorganized episode of the Cooker's Corner. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, maybe you're not available. Maybe you're not available for enjoyment. I don't know. It's possible. There are people out there. That are absolutely miserable. End of the show, Joe. End the show. We'll do better next time. We'll do better next time.